Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Steve O's World. What have I got cooking today, guys? I finished up the comb honey jar lid contraption. See, I got 9 holes bored in this thing. I took and cut, I had some extra material, and I put a 1.5 inch piece on the end because that's the thickness of the box. This is the inside dimensions of the box, my beefy beehives. So we'll use this as a feeder hole. There's one thing I got to do yet on these. I only built 2 of these. This is all experimental. Everything I'm doing is experimental. So you can try this if you like, or you can just wait to see how mine turns out. But anyway, I'm going to put Tall Earth, or eco, it's the same thing, eco-friendly wood preservative on this. I'm just going to paint that wood because that's just bare wood, and I think we'll get more mileage out of it if I do that. I won't put any paint or anything on this backer board. This is 1/4 inch backer board. That strip I put on there, I don't know, I didn't even measure it. I just set the saw up and burned it off. I think it's about 1/4 inch thick, this piece of wood. And I just put Bondtite 3 and clamped it. I put a clamp here in the center. You can see here I got a splice in here. So I put that on it. What I did is put this end one on first. Then I put the sides on. Put glue in here and smashed it up tight. Clamped it with a spring clamp. And this is the last board I put on right here. Very simple setup. It'll go on like that. There'll be an excluder under here. This will be going on top of 10 frames of bees, double stack 5. I'll get 2 hot hives to set up this experiment. Really strong blown out hives. And I'll put an excluder down on the top, and I'll set this on, and then we'll start putting our jars on. I got assembly line here. Like I said, I went to China Mart and picked up 2 cases of pints, wide mouth pints. Miss Daisy had a rack, but it didn't fit here inside. I didn't want the jar sitting directly on the floor. This is just simmering. I got it down here on really low heat, but it's actually starting to boil. Yeah, so all I'm doing here, while I was at China Mart, I picked up a cheese grater. It's quite simple. I had the bar of wax, and so I'm just doing this little number here. And I'm putting about this much wax in each jar, about that much. And then I just set them in my rack here, and it doesn't take any time at all to melt that. And after I melt it, then I set it over there to harden. And here's some finished jars here. There's some finished jars here. The reason I'm doing it this way is I didn't want to melt it. I didn't want to melt the wax and try to pour it in here because it's going to splatter and it's going to be all on the sides of the jar. I didn't want that. I just want it in the bottom, just like you see here. So that I think is going to work out just Jimmy dandy. Yes, it doesn't take long at all. It's only up about 1/2 inch on that jar, and it's sitting in here. It doesn't take any time at all to melt this grated wax. And so I just set it over there and let it cool. And of course I washed everything. I'm finishing washing up now. Got all those jars there, finished washing up. So I've got a little assembly line going here. So I got 24 of these jars. We're set up for, as the flow starts, to get them triggered, get these bees triggered, I'll have a feeder sitting here. Okay, I'll have a feeder sitting here to trigger these to move them up into these jars. Once the flow starts, which is about September 15th, about like clockwork. It could start earlier, could start later, but usually September 15th is the magic number on Brazilian pepper flow here in Florida. And if they're really filling these out nice, and I got a feeder sitting here, this feeder will come off and I'll put another jar here, so that way we can collect 9 jars. 9 jars, you know, so that'd be what, 18 jars. And crossing my fingers, I'm thinking I'm gonna ask around, see what the numbers are, but I think I can get $20 a jar, $20 a pint, I think, for comb honey. And what we'll do, we're gonna pull frames. I will pull frames on the lower chambers as the flow starts. They'll be blowing out the bottom chamber on the sides and probably the upper box, the upper 5 box on the sides with honey. And we can go in there and rob that. Take a look at the honey, evaluate it. If it looks like pepper honey in there, I can tell it's got kind of a greenish hue to it. I will harvest that, and we'll do a scrape and drain. That'll be probably on Plasticell. I'll do a scrape and drain, and then we can top out our jars. Once we harvest this comb honey, I'll fire up my bee vac and suck all the bees out of these jars. We'll make sure, of course, it's capped honey in there, and then we will top out the jars with our raw pepper honey. And I don't have labels. I may come up with some label. This is just strictly, guys, this is just strictly experimental. I'm sure it'll work. I know it'll work because I've done it before, but I haven't done it in any volume. But if this thing works the way I think it's going to, I wish I had some better pepper locations. I got some really good spots down an hour and a half south of me. It's the other side of the Skyway Bridge, Sarasota area south, down in that mosquito infested swamp down there. A lot of pepper, but there's a lot of pepper starting to happen here, and we'll see how it goes, you know. But I think this would be a cool way to move honey, comb honey in a jar. And I don't have a lot of time involved in building these at all. Like I said, I cranked out 2 of them yesterday in no time at all. Put the little rim on it. I set up the saw. I had some 1.5-inch material. I started burning them out. Then I cut these down 3/4 on the sides. This will fit my beefy beehives perfectly. And I'm phasing out all Dadan equipment. I'm going strictly Steve-O beefy beehives. This is my thing. You guys build what you want to build, but this is what I'm doing. We're utilizing standard frames, but this is not a standard box. So keep that in mind. These dimensions on the beefy beehive are simple. The lids are 8.5. The lids, this size, this piece of backer board here is exactly the size of my lids, which is 8.5 by 21 5/16 long. The beefy beehive is got 2 by 8 ends, 10 inches high. The sides on all of them are pallet wood. So you've got a very strong hive because you're screwing your pallet wood into a 2-inch stock material on the ends. You don't even need glue. 1.5-inch screw is fine. I use Phillips deck screws. I put like 3 to a side. That's it. No glue. No glue on the sides of the pallet wood going on the sides. None of that. So it works out fantastic. The The 2x8s actually come to about 7 1/4, which is fine for putting in 5 frames. 5 frames of bees in a 2x8. Simple dimensions, simple beehive for a real simple beekeeper. I will see you guys on the next one. Be happy, be strong. We got to keep getting it on, and let's make some comb honey. See ya.